This is gonna be a bazonkers ride.
You're too young, you wouldn't understand.
You're right, I don't understand, but I'm cool with your mystical journey or whatever.
So, Jake becomes a brick, but as always with Adventure Time, this is way deeper than it appears. So, let's revisit this episode and see what all the fuss is about. What does Jake turning himself into a brick have to do with life, isolation, and the search for enlightenment? Well, as always, let's start with the recap.
Finn, ever since I was little, I wanted to see what it's like to be a brick in a brick shack when the brick shack falls down.
Jake has a theory. He thinks that if he squeezes himself into a gap between the bricks of a collapsing shack and waits for the eventual collapse, he will understand something about life. It's all part of his quest to ascend to the 50th Dead World. Finn finds him there and leaves him a walkie-talkie so they can keep in touch. Jake insists he is okay on his own, but he isn't. He expects isolation to be enlightening. Instead, it's just boring.
Okay, back to being a brick.
2 seconds later,
I'm so bored.
this is how most of us view the world. We expect things to be constantly happening and building towards some eventual goal that we hope to achieve. When we spend a bit more time with absolutely nothing happening, we get uncomfortable. Just like Jake. But just because nothing's happening to us doesn't mean nothing's happening around us. Jake realizes this when a bunny hops out of the bushes into the clearing right in front of him. The bunny starts digging up a carrot until a deer emerges from the bushes, scares the bunny away, and steals the carrot. This is a classic Adventure Time trope, and I love to see it.
Wow, deers are jerks.
Jake narrates all of this and Finn listens through the walkie-talkie.
Hey man, you know I can hear everything you say, right?
What? No, I had no idea.
Jake's pathetic attempt at acting surprised proves he is happy for the company, even if it's only semi-virtual. But he makes one thing crystal clear.
It's not about the bunny. The bunny is incidental to the brick experiment.
This is where Jake is wrong. He doesn't know it yet, but he finds out soon enough. Since Jake pretends that he wants to be alone, Finn says he'll leave him alone, and the walkie-talkie clicks. Jake asks if Finn is still there and gets no response. Sad and convinced he's alone, Jake keeps narrating the events in his vicinity. Maybe, just maybe, he can hope.
Twilight falls on the peaceful forest. A twilight unaware of the struggles it both soothes and conceals.
Everything in the woods seems to be winding down. There are flashes of lightning in the distance, foreshadowing a rough night to come, but at the moment, it looks like nothing's really happening.
Even angry deer, at last, must come to rest.
Jake yawns and goes to sleep. When he wakes up, it's raining.
Oh my God, it's a crazy storm. This might be it. This weather might knock the whole thing down.
Jake is initially happy about the storm. It's gonna knock the shack down and he's going to experience what it's like to be a brick in the falling shack. But then he realizes that life isn't all about him. While the storm is fun to him, it's a disaster to the bunny. If the storm persists, the bunny's burrow is going to be flooded and the bunny will drown. When Jake notices this, his joy evaporates. Unbeknown to Jake, Finn has taken the walkie-talkie to the radio station, and now everybody in the land of Ooh is listening to the narration of the bunny's struggles.
A lone bunny, facing off against the elements, ineffectually pushing around some twigs with his pink bunny nose.
Jake thinks it's a symbolic gesture, long on hope but short in usefulness. Nevertheless, he acknowledges that ineffectual symbolic gestures are all that we have sometimes.
If a definition of bravery exists, this must be it.
The storm continues building up strength.
It's becoming clear that Mother Nature has not just knocked on the door, she has come in, sat down, and poured herself a drink.
Against the might of the storm is a sad, lonely little bunny.
Mr. Bunny has no friends, no family, no loved ones of any kind.
The wind has picked up and the puddles are gathering, connecting and flowing towards the bunny's warren.
It won't be long now.
But the bunny is in luck. A family of friendly beavers comes and builds a dam to keep the water out of the bunny's burrow.
These intrepid mammals are sparing no effort to shore up the endangered burrow.
A sea lard joins the helping party. It uses its, fat buns to widen the hole while the beavers reinforce the sides. Everybody else in the land of Ooh listens to Jake's narration of this construction project with suspense. I mean, they're all rooting for the bunny here. This perfectly represents how a lot of us view stories. We tend to root for the underdog because we are the underdogs in our own lives and kind of need a win. If underdogs get crushed, so do we. And there's no bigger, or is it smaller, underdog than a tiny little bunny going up against the unstoppable and uncaring forces of Mother Nature. After working throughout the night, the beavers, the bunny, and the sea lard succeed. They build a dam that keeps the bunny's burrow dry. Everybody lets out a huge collective sigh of relief. Crisis averted. Or is it?
Mr. Bunny is exhausted, but can rest easy, knowing that his home is secure. But alas, the bunny's rest is short-lived. The deer is back.
The beavers and the sea lard are not there to help. Unchallenged, the deer wrecks the dam and the bunny's burrow just for fun.
And when a single smash from the deer's powerful front hooves, the bunny's home is under attack.
Adventure Time doesn't show this attack. We just hear Jake's narration and see the people of Ooh listening to it, imagining the horror that is unfolding in front of the bunny.
A couple of more mighty smashes, and the dam has been breached. The water is now flooding in.
A tree collapses on the burrow and completes the job.
It's over. The warren has been destroyed, an injustice of astronomical levels.
Words fail me.
The whole of Ooh collectively mourns with the bunny. What's it gonna do now? Well, every cloud has a silver lining. And in this cloud of disaster, the bunny finds a nice hollow in the freshly collapsed tree. The bunny climbs into the hollow and makes his new home. Unlike a weak little hole, the deer can't wreck a tree, and it walks away defeated, and all of Ooh cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, this bunny is indomitable!
This is the first lesson of the episode. Adaptability and endless resourcefulness in the face of uncaring natural forces. This is why we love stories, books, movies, TV shows, comics. We watch and read these things to be inspired. We don't gravitate towards heroes who are weak or stupid or cowardly. We worship brave, strong geniuses who are endlessly resourceful and adaptable, just like the bunny. These are the character traits that we want in ourselves, and I mean, they're the ones we look for in our fictional heroes. Even Jake is inspired.
This bunny has the right attitude. Who cares about being a brick in a wall of a falling down shack? There's something bigger than that.
But that is just the first layer of Jake the Brick. The second layer is a lot less upbeat. The second layer of Jake the Brick is about Jake's long quest for enlightenment. Jake thought he would find enlightenment by being a brick in a collapsing shack. He didn't. This is a twist on the typical story of the guy who goes into the woods or on top of the mountain to find enlightenment. Jake tries it by inserting himself into a wall, but he doesn't find any enlightenment. Just boredom. But he finally believes he has.
Bunny has answers. Teach me, Mr. B!
It turns out Jake was holding the shack up all along. All he had to do was remove himself and the shack collapsed. He learned that one lesson at least, but there are plenty of others that went completely over his head. What Jake failed to learn is that enlightenment is not an event, it's a process. Jake thought he could just be a brick in the wall, block out the rest of the world, and figure out what life was all about. But he couldn't because enlightenment doesn't work like that. It's like adulting. You don't just transform into an adult when you turn 18. Earning that label takes years of stress and despair. Jake is gonna have to suffer a lot more before he earns enlightenment. We can clearly see that Jake is very far from enlightenment. He sat in a wall cosplaying as a brick while watching the bunny struggle. The thought of helping it by scaring away the deer or building a dam never even crossed his mind. He was just a spectator. And it reminds me of the story behind this photograph. A starving child in Sudan has collapsed on the ground. A hungry vulture lurks behind the child, and instead of helping, the photographer just adjusts his lens and started snapping pictures. The photographer, Kevin Carter, eventually chased away the vulture and saved the kid's life, but he only did that after he had taken as many pictures as he could. This one won him a Pulitzer and the hatred of about half the world. The trauma of the public backlash drove Carter to take his own life. There are a lot of photographers who have similar regrets to Kevin Carter. The Guardian interviewed several of them. there is one thing that keeps coming up when you read through the interviews. All these photographers recorded scenes of incredible human suffering. Beatings and stonings and stabbings and stampedes and even violent SA. The one thing that they all regret is that the idea of helping never even crossed their minds. They just stood there with their cameras snapping pictures while people suffered and died in front of them. This would have been almost unbelievable, but social media has shown that this behavior isn't that rare among humans. I mean, we see it all the time now. Something horrible happens, and instead of helping, people take out their phones and start recording that shit. Jake is like that. He uses the bunny for entertainment instead of lending a helping hand, which only proves that he is still a long way from achieving the enlightenment he so desperately wants. I don't believe I've achieved enlightenment myself, so I am not qualified to describe the experience, but I would like to believe that being so self-absorbed that you don't recognize when other people could use your help is not a trait of enlightenment, guys. Now, Jake is not evil by any stretch of the imagination. The photographers and the people who record disasters instead of helping are also not evil. They may not be like great people, but they're not evil. Evil people know the difference between right and wrong and do the wrong thing anyway. For Jake, the right thing in this scenario, helping the bunny, didn't even cross his mind. The beavers and the sea lard are surprisingly more enlightened than Jake. Despite not being in the vicinity, they actually step in and help the bunny while Jake sits around like spectator, broadcasting the bunny's suffering to another audience of spectators. The listeners of the broadcast are all rooting for the bunny, but they're not in a position to do anything. Jake, however, is sitting 2 feet away. I mean, he could step in at any time, but he doesn't. I find the fact that he never even dreams of helping the bunny really sad. He just watches a bunny's struggles, and once the bunny beats the deer, he tries to use it for his own selfish ends.
And the bunny has answers. Teach me, Mr. B.
Alright, so if this was a nature documentary, Jake's non-intervention would be justifiable. That would just be nature taking its course. You can't stop a lion from eating a gazelle, cause, I mean, a lion's gotta eat something at the end of the day. If it's not gonna be the gazelle, it's probably gonna be you. But Jake and the bunny have both been anthropomorphized. And in the context of the story, they're functionally humans. If you have human characteristics, you become beholden to human ethics. That's what I believe, and I believe Jake has failed that test. What do you guys think? Catch you later.